The Accidental Entrepreneur is brought to you with the help of our sponsor, AWeber, the world's leading small business email marketing and automation service provider. Since 1998, AWeber has helped more than 1 million small businesses and entrepreneurs through its suite of web-based email marketing, automation tools, and education. AWeber, the best option when it comes to marketing your business. The podcast is also brought to you by the Alternative Board. Since 1989, the Alternative Board, or TAB, has been one of the leading peer advisory and business coaching organizations for independent business owners and CEOs across the world. By facilitating peer advisory boards, private one-on-one coaching, and strategic planning services, TAB helps business owners improve their businesses in ways that change their lives. And be sure to check out our affiliate sponsor, One of One Productions, the New Jersey-based podcast studio that produces and edits both audio and video podcasts. They sell equipment for the avid podcaster and have even created a guesting kit exclusively for our listeners. And be sure to support the podcast by ordering some logo merchandise from our online store. Listen to all of our sponsors' commercials later in this episode and follow their links in the show notes to learn more about their products and services. Okay, welcome to another live episode of the podcast. This is our third live, second guest. We have another great guest here today. If you are listening on your favorite directory, be sure to give us a 5-star review if you can. It varies by directory. And if you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like us, and hit any other bells and whistles and buttons that you can. So allow us to keep bringing great guests like we have today. So let's get started with today's show.
The information provided in these episodes is for entertainment purposes only. It is not a guarantee of success or to be construed as advice of any kind. You should always seek advice from local licensed professionals before making any decisions.
The dictionary defines an entrepreneur as a person who organizes and manages any enterprise, especially a business, usually with considerable initiative and risk. People often start a business without much choice, perhaps due to a job loss or just being dissatisfied at work, and they come up with an idea they just know can be successful. They become entrepreneurs by accident. That is to say, their success or failure happens by accident, not with intention. My name is Mitch Beinhacker. I'm a corporate attorney and a business advisor. You're listening to The Accidental Entrepreneur, my podcast about how to achieve success on purpose, not by accident. Join me along with our monthly guests where we share our knowledge and help you get a hold of your business. And now on to today's episode.
All right, so welcome to the episode, to the podcast. We have a great guest today. I am going to read a little bit about him, and then I'll let Brian introduce himself. Brian Will is the industry expert in sales and management consulting and a best-selling author of the Wall Street Journal and USA Today hit book, The Dropout Multi-Millionaire. We're going to talk about that during our discussion. With over 35 years of experience as a serial entrepreneur, Brian has a proven track record of success, having created 7 highly successful companies across 4 different industries with a combined worth of over $500 million at their peak. Brian, thanks for coming on the show. And why don't we start with introducing yourself and start telling us about your background.
Good morning, Mitch. I appreciate you having me. This is awesome. I think my background goes back to failing out of high school. That's where I started, right? No education. Got kicked out of the house at 18, joined the military because I didn't have any place else to go.
Okay.
Got off active duty, started my first business, which was in landscaping because, again, no education, no discernible job skills. I figured anybody could cut grass and dig holes, so that's what I did. But built that into 7 franchises here in the Atlanta area before that thing collapsed, fell apart. Learned a lot of lessons in that one.
Okay.
And then
7 people that were running organizations, they were kind of part of.
Well, we actually franchised the company. So I was a franchisor, and I learned a lot about failure, learned a lot about franchising in that business. And it finally collapsed. I moved into the insurance industry, which was back about 1996.
Okay.
And through your accidental entrepreneur is awesome because I call it a progression of ideas
Right.
And executions, which is how people end up succeeding most of the time.
Well, what made you go from the landscaping business, right? Because I guess it just wasn't making it financially. You shut the whole thing down to insurance. Where was that?
Yeah, so I had when the company collapsed around me, lost my health insurance, and then my daughter started to have health problems. She was 3 years old at the time, and a friend of mine came to the house to try to sell me an insurance policy. And while he was talking to me, he said, "Hey man, you should come sell insurance with me." And I absolutely did not want to do that. But over a period of about 6 months, he'd come back every now and then and show me these big commission checks, and they kept getting bigger and bigger. And 6 months later, I said, you know what, maybe I should try selling insurance. So I did landscaping during the day and insurance at night.
Yeah.
And then after about 6 weeks of selling insurance, I was making more money part-time than I was full-time. So I quit the landscaping business, and that's what moved me into the insurance side. So again, just accidentally got into it just because.
My father, he passed away in December, but he was in the life insurance business since 1965. And I think he was working for a shoe chain, and he was in management. He went to my mom was pregnant, and he went to buy insurance from a guy that he knew through somebody else. And during the conversation, that's exactly what happened. He says, I'd like to learn more about your business, and dropped his management program, went and stayed in the insurance business. So
yeah, I mean, who knew I could sell? That was kind of the whole joke of the whole thing, is I had no idea that I would be good at it. And within 6 weeks, I was the top agent in this agency. I was producing like half the revenue for the entire agency of 15 salespeople.
And the insurance business is it was life insurance and health insurance.
It was health insurance and life. Yeah.
So, that's a tough sell. It's hard. It's, a tangible product. People aren't getting in smelling the leather and things like that. And if you have no sales training, or even it just kind of fits certain people.
Well, it was interesting back then because this is when health savings accounts first came out.
Okay.
And they had never been done before. And we were running advertisements on the Rush Limbaugh show. And so the leads were flying in because, when Rush said something, people would call.
Right.
And then I would just go out and explain to them how it didn't make any sense to keep their current policy, that this thing was awesome. And they just started buying it from me. It was kind of crazy.
But you had like a door opener because nobody really understood HSAs then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah. So I ended up building this through a series, again, of progression of ideas. I ended up building the first, what we call direct to consumer call center today. Back then, I just called it a virtual sales center, right? I started figuring out how to sell on the phone instead of going out and seeing people. Right. And knocking on their doors and driving around town. And 1999 rolls around, and the internet boom takes off, and there's a couple of big online internet insurance companies. Yeah. And I was the only agency in the country that was allowed to do this because we were doing an experimental program. And so we got snapped up. And that's how I got into the venture capital world.
Got it. Yeah, because 96, I said you just got started. That's like 17 years ago. Internet, I think I first heard about it around 92.
Yeah.
Until the end of the 90s, where people were now, e-commerce was really taking off. So that was like your first exit, kind of, right? Because you owned the company. And
it was, as I like to joke, I got $1 million, which at the time I thought I was freaking rich.
You're a millionaire.
And as you know, $1 million is nothing. After you pay your taxes, and I paid my house off and I bought a car, I had like $50,000 left.
Yeah,
and I thought,
I remember 9/11. I used to do a lot of work with, I still do a lot of work with financial advisors, and I'd have to sit with these widows who lost their husbands or spouses or whatever, and they had life insurance, right? So they had $1 million, and the mom's saying she's going to be fine. She got $1 million, and I said, well, $50,000 to live. She got 3 kids, has been out of the workforce for 10 whatever years. She's not making 15% on her money, so you're going to start running out of money 7 or 8 years, and I had some people that literally walked out of the office and were like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you don't realize how little $1 million is until you actually get it.
Yeah. No, because it's just a pile of money that's got to be put to work. It's not like you can use it, because every time you use it, the pile gets smaller and the income that it generates gets smaller. It's a spiraling process, but that's a whole nother, financial planning discussion.
So that was 1999, and a funny story. When I got the check, I went down to the bank to pay my house off, and the broker at the bank, he's like, "No, don't pay your house off. You need to invest this in stocks. These internet stocks are booming." This was January of 2000. They're booming. Invest all your money in stocks. Don't pay the house off. And I argue with him. Yeah, I argued with him for 20 minutes until I finally paid the house off. And you know what happened in March of 2000? The bubble burst.
Graveyard. Yeah, it would have all burst.
I'd have lost it all.
Yeah.
So
look, there's an argument to be said, depending on your income, that you should keep your mortgage because you get tax deductions depending on the rates, right?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean you go and throw all your money in the stock market into internet stocks. That's crazy.
Yeah, and today I have a mortgage on my house today, and I can pay my house off, tomorrow if I wanted to. But as you just said, it makes financial sense because of my 2.15% interest rate.
Right.
to not pay it off. You're never going to get money that cheap again.
Right. Plus the availability of cash has a lot to do with it, right? So if you have no mortgage and you lose your job, let's say, you're not going to the bank and getting a loan against your house. They're going to want to know what's your income, how are you going to pay this back, and you don't have any. So bad time to be getting a loan. So yeah.
One of the chapters in my book, I talk about cash is king, and I say, if you have a choice between 100,000 of cash and 100,000 of debt, or no cash and no debt, which one would you do? Right. And all day I'll take 100,000 cash and 100,000 debt, because if something happens, I can't go to the grocery store, fill up my car, go up to the register and say, hey, look, I got no debt. Can I have these groceries?
Here's a bag of dirt from my front yard.
Yeah. Nobody cares.
Yeah. Doesn't help. So yeah, a lot of people miss that. They psychologically, they don't want to have debt. They don't want to have a mortgage. It keeps them up at night, but that's not the way life works. And accessing the cash right in your house under your feet is not just, oh, I have this house, give me money. It's just not that simple. So
right.
Yeah, no, good advice. Well, we're already getting into the book. So 1999 was basically your exit from the insurance business. That was the last.
That was the first one. I actually got back in after that, started another one that we launched. I got acquired again by another venture capital firm out of Silicon Valley. That company is called getinsured.com today. They power like 9 or 10 states and the state-based ACA programs. So they acquired me in 2008. I had another company we started in 2003 that we sold in 2006, which was an internet marketing company. Essentially, we did lead gen in the credit and insurance space. We sold that to a private equity firm. And then after both of those exits, I honestly tried to retire, but my brain never stops, so I couldn't.
Yeah, but you found a formula in an industry, and you're kind of repeating it, right? So people should listen to that.
It's a joke. They used to say I was rubber stamping this business model, and that's just about right.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. If you find a model that works and you can repeat it and sell it again, there's, look, these big companies, I'm sure the private equity group, they don't want to start a company from scratch.
Yep.
They want to buy what you built. It's too expensive for them to do it. And they don't have the people to do it. So yeah.
Yeah. And then once you've sold a few companies, the industry considers you an expert. So then I became a high price consultant. So I'm running around talking to, CEOs and CFOs and CMOs and CSOs of billion-dollar companies on how to improve their direct-to-consumer call center. So I did that for a number of years. And then bought some restaurants for fun, and a couple of them failed. And so I bought more, of course. That's what you do.
Franchises or just?
The first one I bought was a franchise, and it lost money the first year, like $50,000. So I sold it and bought 4 more that were not franchises. Okay. Yeah, we always double down, right?
Yeah.
And then through a period of trials and errors and failures and successes, we got about 7 units now that are operating and doing really well in the restaurant business. I don't do a lot with that, honestly. I have a good team of people, so I don't really get involved in the operations there. Yep.
But
then I wrote a few.
A different industry, right? So you had to kind of figure that out. It took a little while to work your plan, so to speak, right? And make some mistakes.
Look, I have never gone into a business or industry that I knew what I was doing. I always. That is not good advice. And hence I failed a lot. But I can tell you from all those failures, I've learned a tremendous amount that I now work with and teach entrepreneurs. Hey, don't do that. Don't do that. Do it this way. Do it this way.
The irony of business, right? I mean, the bigger mistakes you make, you learn more, but you don't want to make those big mistakes because you're just learning for other people at the end of the day. But that's part of failing your way to success. Sometimes I always tell people, listen to you, read your book, listen to the people I interview, so you will avoid the bigger mistakes. Hopefully, you'll always make mistakes, and some of it comes with taking risks, don't you think? I mean, you get more comfortable with risk as you succeed and you have money in the bank and you got some staying power and you'll take some more risks, and then you have some bigger failures and you'll learn some things. But that's okay when you're 20 years in or 10, 15 years in and you've banked some money and you got some credibility, and it's different. That's different than doing it day one.
So this what we teach people, we call the 100 lessons, right? I call it the 100 lessons from zero to success, whatever success means to you. Yeah. And let's just assume there's 100 lessons in there. We all come into that 100 lesson block at a different level. If you've got experience, if you've got money, if you've got backing, you might start at lesson 50 and you only have to learn 50 lessons to get where you want to go. Me, I started at 0. Every new entrepreneur comes in at a different level. Anybody can succeed if they're willing to not quit and go through all the lessons. Most people that fail, they quit before they get to the top. Right. And then the second thing I tell people is, if you want to skip some of those lessons, if you want to flatten that learning curve, find somebody who's already 10 or 20 or 30 steps above you and can say, hey, man, what am I doing wrong here? How do I do this? And that'll help you accelerate your business, amplify your revenues and profits, and get you where you want to go a lot faster. I did not do that my first 20 years. It took me a long time to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, I'm a huge advocate. I mean, you heard the sponsors were the alternative board is one of our sponsors. I'm a big advocate of advisory boards, of mentors, of there's no reason. There's people out there that have made those mistakes and figure those things out. You don't have to spend 20 years trying to figure out again, but spend 20 years trying to figure it out when you can it's always easy to look back and say, boy, if I knew 20 years ago what I know now, but it's part of the journey, unfortunately. But hopefully people listen to you and they go, oh, that's a good idea. I know John, whatever, and I should call him and ask him if he would have a cup of coffee with me.
You know what's funny, though, Mitch, is ego kills more entrepreneurs than anything else. Yeah. I literally had an entrepreneur here in my hometown yesterday in a conversation tell me, yeah, my business isn't growing the way I want it to. I'm struggling a little bit here. And I said, you need to bring in a coach. And she was so adamant. I am not hiring anybody. I am good at business. I can do this on my own.
Right.
And it just
something, and that's by the way, you and I both know the best people use coaches more than people that are struggling. I mean,
I just did a podcast with David Meltzer. And he's a CEO coach to Fortune 50 companies. Tim Cook of Apple has an executive coach along with his board of directors. Like, of course you should do that. But these small entrepreneurs think, oh no, I can do it all myself. I got this. It's like, no.
Look, business is humbling and it'll humble you if you're not humble to it. And that's why I remember my dad always gave me good advice. One of the first things when I came out of law school, I didn't know what I was going to do. I was interested in estate planning and business planning, but it was hard. I couldn't get a job. So my dad was in the insurance business. I went to work for insurance agencies, whatever. And the first thing he told me was, listen, here's a list of 5 or 6 people that I know are successful in insurance. You find other ones, have a cup of coffee with a different guy every month, and you learn a tremendous amount. So that was, good advice. And I try to, like you said, try to tell people that that's what you should do.
But their ego gets in the way.
I know, but I don't even do that for legal work. I run it by people, and you got one brain, and you can't talk to yourself and figure things out all the time. And it's
collaborative decision making is powerful.
Yeah, and that's why you got to where you are. That's why you wrote the book and all these types of things. But yeah, I love the story. It's valuable to the people that are listening.
Yeah. So after that, we sold those. I did consulting for a while, and then I got the restaurants. I've got my third book is now coming out next month. I got into politics, did city council, got into real estate. Okay. And so I don't really actively work in any of the businesses per se today that I own, but I sit at 30,000 strategic direction level of everything that I do.
You should be there. You shouldn't be sweeping the floors and plumbing out toilets. So you have somewhat of a real estate portfolio. You own, you're an owner of, or maybe a partner in the restaurants.
I own the restaurants, yeah.
You're not in the insurance business anymore, right?
No, I almost got back in recently. It's an interesting story. I had a person that I've consulted for, I've mentored for 15 years, and he asked me to come in and work with him on the company. And we came in and we were about to do a $5 million raise. And I hope he doesn't hear this story. And I said, listen, I'm not willing to put my name on the $5 million raise if you're going to remain the CEO. It's not because you're a bad person. Right. I'm just telling you, we need a better CEO.
Yeah. Sometimes you're just not right for the job.
And he wasn't willing to take the title away. He wanted to do it himself. And so I pulled out of the deal.
I mean, that's part of it, right? You're investing in people. And it's not that he's not the right person. He's just the wrong person for that job.
For that job. Every entrepreneur is not a CEO. That is such a critical key.
Right.
Just because you start the business doesn't mean you should physically run the business. Right. Just like you might not be the salesperson. You might not be the manager. If you own a plumbing company, you might not be the plumber. You don't have to be everything. Find what you're good at. Bring in other people to fill in the rest of it.
Yeah. Look, I boiled down a business plan, if you really had to write a strategic plan, to like 4 parts, right? Your product or service, the financial side of it, the marketing and the marketplace. And the 4th is personnel and, job descriptions and everything, and figure out, can I do this? Do I need people to do other things? What am I good at? What am I not good at? And I think most importantly, from you just alluded to, be honest with yourself.
Yes.
Because these people are kidding themselves saying, oh, I'm the entrepreneur. Like, the word entrepreneur doesn't mean tough guy who figures everything out and doesn't let anybody help him. That's not the definition of entrepreneur. So, or business owner, or whatever it happens to be. So I think that, yeah, I mean, for people listening, that's a huge obstacle that if people overcome that early on, I think they have much more of a chance of seeing the things that you become blind to when you are so, it's not even in love with your business. I think you get to the point, maybe you will agree or disagree, but you get to the point where you are committed so much to whatever it is you're doing that you're almost embarrassed to change and, admit that, oh God, I wasted the last 6, 8 months going down the wrong path. But that's history, right? That's a
It's
bucket.
ego.
It's only what you can do going forward. You gotta,
Yep.
or you don't, or you fail. You know.
We call this being deadly honest with who you are, but more importantly, who you're not.
Yeah, that's good.
Because who you're not, if you try to fill that role, is what's going to kill you.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. What kind of businesses have you consulted with? Like, I mean, I know insurance, but have you consulted with other businesses and other industries?
Actually, a wide variety in this. So what I've done now, Mitch, is I've taken like 35 years of buying business or building businesses, selling them, consulting for corporate America. And I brought all that experience down to what I call the well-funded startup to 10 million in revenue level. So this is the new mastermind that I've launched, and it's a private business coaching. So it's construction companies is the latest one I just brought on. It's a chiropractic office. It's, it's small business, some other restaurants that I do consulting for. Here's the thing. What I teach is not hard skill specific. It is soft skill mindset business specific, right? We call it tactical business strategy. And tactical business strategy works for any business, irregardless, right? I just did a cleaning franchise, national cleaning franchise. We went in and did some work with them, but the exact same things we talked to them and their P&L analysis and core metrics apply to every single business that's out there. Right?
Different numbers, different number of zeros.
It's just a matter of, as I say, take your P&L, track it over 24 months, pull out the 6 core metrics, do pattern recognition, and you can now predict your business moving forward. I don't care what your business is. It's still a profit and loss statement. It's still core metrics. It's still pattern recognition. It's all the same. Right. If you can run a business, you can run a business. That's kind of what I tell people.
A lot of that is about knowing your numbers, right? It's really important that you have a grip on your financials.
It's the number 5 in my 5 keys to success, right? Know your numbers. And you'd be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't. I run across businesses all the time that they have no idea.
No idea.
None.
You know what? Those are cash flow businesses. As soon as the cash flow stops, like during the pandemic, the smoke clears and they realize they don't really have a business. They were barely staying open. The best business owners I've met and worked with and clients of mine, they know exactly, let's use a cleaning company, for example. They know exactly how many jobs they have to bring on before they add a new crew and what the cost is of the area in which they service, because they can only get so many places and they have so many hours to get a crew there or whatever. They really know their numbers, and it gives you peace of mind. But, look, people are afraid of a lot of things, including math. So
it's funny. I did this P&L analysis for this franchise company. I was at their annual convention, and I had them send me 6 actual P&Ls, top 2, middle 2, bottom 2. And I did the core metric analysis, and I said, here's your 6 core metrics. And the difference between franchises that are growing and they're wildly profitable, the ones that are not growing but sort of profitable, and the ones that are losing money, all boiled down to the percentage dollars spent on marketing. That's what it all boiled down to. The top people were spending 8%. The bottom people were spending 4%. At 4%, they weren't covering the attrition, the loss of clients, because you have a constant attrition. Right. People spending 5 or 6 were recovering their attrition, but they weren't growing. People spending 8% were covering the attrition and growing, and they were wildly profitable. That was the single core metric. It was a franchise system, obviously. That was the difference. And I said, and I did the return on dollars, right? If you spend $1 at 8%, you get a $15 return. If you spend $1 at 4%, you get a $5 return.
Well, it makes sense, right? I mean, you're talking about filling the pipeline, right?
Yes, it's just math, and it doesn't. And if you drag that out across 200 or 500 or 1,000 franchises, the math works every time. So it's not even arguable,
right?
And yet people still don't do it.
Yeah, well, I think what you said before about your 100, what was it? Your 100?
The 100 lessons.
Yeah. None of that is things that people can't do. It's that they're unwilling. Like, there's nothing in business that you or I have special skills and we're able to, I mean, your book's called The Dropout. You've demonstrated it. It's what people are unwilling to do. Maybe they're not comfortable. Maybe they're stuck on their ego, whatever it is. It's not that they can't do it. There's nobody says, I can't do that. They can always find somebody who can do it, or can help them, or read about it, or talk to you, or read your book, or, join a mastermind, whatever it happens to be. People get there. So I think that's an important lesson, that it's not you. It's what you're willing or not willing to do.
And even, and like I had someone the other day say, but I'm not really comfortable talking to people. Okay, then either start reading a bunch of books and get comfortable, or hire somebody else who is.
Right.
Either way, you're going to fill that gap. If you're trying to do it right now, it's not going to work for you.
Yeah, it's funny. I have a book coming out. It should have been out 2 months ago. We're chasing the publisher down about the things you need to do as a business owner to stay out of court and to stay out of trouble. And the major theme is like putting things in writing, business plans, contracts with clients, contracts with vendors, employee agreements, all that type of stuff, because our memories are totally fallible. Like, we don't remember anything accurately. You and I could talk about this conversation 6 months from now, and without reviewing it, and you'll remember we talked about one thing. I'll remember we talked about something else.
Yep.
And neither of us are correct. So
Yep.
it's important you put things in writing. I get people that say to me, oh, but I mean, I'm not comfortable with that. When I'm talking to somebody and I got to like whip out a contract, and first of all, you better get comfortable with it, because the judge isn't going to care when you say, well, Your Honor, I mean, really wasn't comfortable asking Brian to sign a contract. Good luck. And that's what professional people do. So change your pitch, your sales pitch, your approach, whatever it is that you're presenting, so the contract does comfortably fit into what you do. As a lawyer, I have to get people to sign retainer agreements. It's part of my ethical obligations. I can't say, well, I wasn't comfortable asking them to sign a retainer agreement. Well,
Yep.
they're not paid. I mean, that's what it comes down to. So I think a lot of that stuff has to do with, you can build a comfortable system, whatever it is, right? Your sales, closing, to make this work for you.
So my next book coming out, by the way, Mitch, is called No.
Yeah.
The Psychology of Sales and Negotiation, right? And one of the things we teach in that book is that exactly what you're talking about. And it doesn't matter whether you're doing a full-blown script or whether you just have a mini script in your head.
Yeah.
You need to figure out what these little mini scripts are, what I call transitional statements. So in other words, what you just said, the easiest way to do this is, okay, so this is what you need to do. Let me tell you how this process works.
Right. It was.
I'm gonna need to give you this.
Yeah, it's like remember in the old days with sales, like dealing with objections, right? That
Yeah.
was a big part of it. And I remember this one thing, maybe I'll use it subconsciously now. Feel, felt, found, when
Yep.
and you just say, I understand how you feel. A lot of people I worked with have felt the same way, but after they found this out, they were more comfortable with going forward with whatever the decision. And it just kind of takes the air out of the balloon. That's what those little statements are about.
Little transitional statements.
So the new book has a lot of that guidance in it.
Yes, it's the psychology of sales and negotiation. And I take people through, if you understand objections prior to the person having them,
right,
and you can build a sales system or a script to overcome those objections before they have them,
right,
then you are going to be in a better position to get your job or your sale, your close done, right? Just like that transition statement. So this is my price. Is that price sounds good to you? Yes. Let me tell you how this process works, which is different than, do you want to buy?
right.
That's a different statement. Let me tell you this process works. And then you just roll into it.
Right.
Like we talk about in the book, the very first objection is people don't like salespeople.
Right.
People don't like salespeople.
They don't trust salespeople.
They don't trust them, right? Well, when you pick up your phone and somebody goes, hi, is this Mr. Beinecker?
Click.
Yeah, it's a salesperson.
Yep.
And suddenly your brain just switches mode and you get like little angry and you don't want to talk to them.
No.
I use car lots. When you walk on a car lot, do you think that the car salesman is looking out for your best interest? Do you trust them?
Worst purchase experience in life.
Yeah.
I don't care whether it's a high, you're buying a Ferrari, maybe that's a little bit better experience. You're buying a Hyundai or a Toyota.
Yeah.
It's just an emasculating experience. Like, that industry needs some major regulation when it comes to autos, and because it's just, you got to find people that you trust, and you really can't figure it all out. And that is that is the quintessential sales purchase experience, right? You go to the used car lot or the dealership and they go, okay, Brian, let me go talk to the manager. And they go behind some glass wall. God knows what they're saying. And you're thinking, oh, they're just, tearing me down and they're going to figure this out and get more money. There's plenty of dealerships that don't work like that and that are legitimate, but that's the impression
Right.
of the experience. I think also people have to kind of accept the fact and buy into the fact that they are salespeople. Even though you say, I don't want to be a salesperson. I'm not comfortable with sales. We're all selling something. It's not to our wife, to our kids, right? So if we kind of embrace that and say, okay, I understand that I'm a salesperson. Learn what objections mean, which I guess is a lot what you were alluding to there, right?
Yeah.
Right. So then when they come up, just like anything else, you're not so like, what was that? Why are you saying that? You're ready for it. It's
right.
And some of that comes with experience, but I think, objections usually mean something more than just what the people are saying. It's not price, it's not this, it's not that. It's because they want it, but they don't know how they can afford it. That type of stuff.
That is one of them. Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
So anyway, the whole book's about that. It comes out May 15th or May 22nd, I think.
Okay, good. So this is live, but it'll be re-released. So maybe by the time it's released, the book will be out. And we'll put some links in the show notes to get some people to the book. All right. Well, why don't we take a commercial break, since I do have some sponsors that pay me a little bit of money to keep the podcast going, and then we can come back and talk more about maybe some stories and experiences you have with other people, things that you've seen other people overcome, and some more advice and all that kind of stuff. Make sense?
You got it.
Okay.
Here's a word from our sponsors.
Looking to market and grow your business? Or perhaps you're just getting started and want to hit the ground running? AWeber is the best choice for online email marketing and automation of your business. From maintaining a subscriber list to drip campaigns and landing pages, AWeber gives you tools and integrations that make marketing easy and fun. As our partner and sponsor, we use all their tools to promote the podcast and market our law firm. AWeber, the best alternative for online marketing. For over 30 years, the Alternative Board, or TAB, has built a thriving community of forward-thinking CEOs and business owners who want to radically improve their companies. Through unique combinations of one-on-one business coaching, participation in monthly TAB board meetings with other non-competing owners, a suite of strategic tools, and customized strategic planning workshops, TAB membership can deliver greater strength to your business and a better work-life balance for you and your family. All packaged in a streamlined and affordable service that the people at TAB invite you to try risk-free. Maybe you're looking to get into podcasting, or you just want to market your business. Maybe you want to do it for enjoyment, or because you have a message you want to get out there. One of One Productions is a New Jersey-based studio just over the George Washington Bridge that caters to the booming business of podcasting. They offer a comfortable atmosphere using the latest technology available to record your podcast. And they are a full-service media company offering both audio and video production services, creating both audio and video podcasts, as well as video shorts for business and personal use. Professional audio equipment packages are available through their website for all budgets, and be sure to check out their podcast guesting kit, created especially for our listeners.
Follow the link in the show notes to learn more about all of our sponsors. And now back to our show.
All right, we're back. And Brian, I think this is such a great conversation because you've grown businesses, you started businesses when you were young, when you were older, you made your mistakes, you've exited. I would like to know if you've built the businesses with the goal of exiting. A lot of people don't do that, and then they decide like 6 months later, before the end, that they want to sell their business. They haven't been positioning it. So maybe that's something we can talk a little bit about. But so you have the business experience. There's a lot of people out there consulting, and they were in corporate, they were in executive, and now they're coaching small business. But you've walked the walk, talked the talk, and all that type of stuff, written the books. But all of the advice that we're giving people, I hope people are really taking, to heart, because, although none of it is magic to you and I, maybe people hearing it over and over and over again from us and other professionals, where they finally find, maybe it resonates with them and they want to work with you. I always tell people, if you're going to coach with somebody, mentor with somebody, you got to feel like you sync with them. What they say makes sense to you. And I think a lot of that is what we're doing. So that's what I think it's really cool that we connected and we're talking. Maybe you can get into those, some more lessons, maybe some businesses that you've helped, maybe some smaller businesses, so people can relate a little bit with some stories like that.
Yeah, I'll jump on a couple of things you just said there. First of all, I want to go back to TAB, right? One of your sponsors, the Alternative Board. And I think this is where a lot of entrepreneurs, especially in that 0 to 10 million revenue, fail.
Yeah.
And the example I always use is Apple. And we talked about Apple a little bit ago, right? Tim Cook runs Apple, one of the biggest companies on the planet, one of the most profitable companies on the planet. Apple has a board of directors, as does virtually every major company in America.
Of course.
And that board of directors comes in every quarter and they sit down with Tim and they say, hey, what's going on? Tell us, your challenges, your opportunities. We're going to use all of our collaborative combined advice, and we're going to tell you what we think you should do. Tim gets done with the board meeting. He takes the advice and he goes out and makes Apple better.
Yeah.
And I always ask entrepreneurs, if Tim Cook, he's got to be a freaking genius kind of guy. If he needs, and oh, by the way, he also has an executive coach,
right,
who's not the CEO of an Apple. Right. If he needs a coach and a board of directors, what in the world makes you think you're going to do this all by yourself?
Right. That means your success is just accidental.
Yeah. And that's where Tab comes in, by the way. You get the opportunity to do things like that without having to have a
board. Right.
Yeah. So great opportunity there.
Yeah. But I don't think it's not difficult for you to create a little bit of an advisory board. You find colleagues who have other businesses, you form like a study group, right? And you agree, maybe under a non-disclosure agreement or whatever, to share information about your business and then run ideas by each other. And hey, I had this trouble with an employee, or we were trying to launch this product.
Yep.
And get their advice and feedback. And it helps you to give them advice too. We know that. So
these are mastermind groups. I run a mastermind group. I belong to somebody else's mastermind group. Like, I don't claim to know everything, and I want to bounce ideas over across other people as well. So I not only do what I do, but I also walk the walk. I am part of one as well. And I think that's just so important for people. And it's that ego of these entrepreneurs that really kills them, because they think they need to be all and know all.
Yeah,
I've always said
organizations like Tab that you don't have to go out and find the people now, right? So if you can't do that, you don't know who to talk to, join an organization like that.
I've always said that success in business is not knowing all the answers. It's asking the right questions.
Good advice. Yeah.
And you don't stop asking questions even when you think you have an answer. I just keep asking and asking and asking. And I always use Jack Welch as an example, one of the top CEOs in history. And he was very, very famous for asking questions.
Yeah.
In fact, I've read articles where he would go to parties and people all want to talk to Jack, and all he would do was sit and ask everybody else questions, and nobody would be allowed to ask him one. Right. This is a guy who wants to absorb knowledge. And again, if the top leaders are out there asking questions, why do we think we need to have all the answers?
Well,
right?
Law school is taught on the Socratic method. When I was at Cornell, I think in biology, and the law school was obviously graduate school, right? So the professor and the biology professor got into an argument with the law professor about the Socratic method. So the law professor said, I guarantee you, we're going to switch classes, and I'm going to teach your lecture and you'll teach my lecture. And I guarantee I'll be able to teach your lecture. So the biology professor obviously couldn't do anything. In the law school professor came in and spent the hour just asking the kids questions. He didn't even read the textbook. And afterward, the students, including myself, were like, that was the greatest lecture we've ever had. They basically did all the teaching, and they figured it all out on their own. So, the whole question methodology is a good one. And it teaches the executive to, learn what's going on in their head.
It's also the most important thing you do in the sales process. Again, too many salespeople think they need to talk, and they really need to be asking questions and listening. And in fact, being a lawyer is just, a litigator is being a salesperson. Right. You're asking questions, you're building formulations in your head so that you know how you're going to come back. This is overcoming objections before they have them, right?
Yeah.
I think I would have been a good litigator. I mean, I failed out of high school, so I don't have that shot. But but it's really just sales. Everything in the world is about sales, and it's all about asking questions. I always say, show me a company that doesn't have a sales force of any kind, and I'll show you a company with no sales. And when you have no sales, you have no company.
Right. Clearly.
Right. The entire world revolves around sales and good people, salespeople. What makes it go?
Right.
It's
the oldest in the world, maybe the second.
Yeah. So I think I got off track there. What was your other question on it?
We were talking about other, stories about other businesses that you've helped or worked with, or, lessons learned, those types of things. Not necessarily your businesses, but other people that you've worked with. Yeah.
So I'll give you another good example here. And this applies to what I call young entrepreneurs. When I say young, I don't mean young in age. I mean young in business, right? My 0 to 10 million crowd here. You also would be surprised when you go into these major companies. I call them the $1 billion companies, right? And you go meet the people that are running these companies. They're just like you and me. right? They just got a job and they learned to play a little politics and they get moved up that corporate ladder, and they may be some big shot in a big company right now, but they're really not any smarter than a guy running a $10 million operation. I used to joke when I sold my landscaping company and I got into the insurance business, it was 3 years later that I sold that insurance business to a venture capital group. And now I'm standing up in Silicon Valley talking to these billion-dollar venture capital groups about how to do what I do and how to do it better. And I remember thinking, I'm standing in this boardroom on Sand Hill Road in Silicon Valley thinking, I was mowing your grass 3 years ago.
Yeah, talk about an origin story.
And now I'm sitting here telling you what you're doing wrong. It's not that they're that smart. So don't ever think that these people are so much smarter than you. You have every ability that they have to do anything you want to do. But they've also got a huge support system, backing, advice, boards of directors, all the things that you're...
Right? That didn't happen at the beginning.
Heck no.
Yeah, but it comes down to this, right? Successful people, just what we said before, successful people do the things that unsuccessful people are unwilling to do.
Yep.
For whatever reason. Not that they can't do, that they're unwilling to do. And that's what separates what is it?
And I will tell you that as a $0 to $10 million entrepreneur, you have more of an ability to stick and move, to improvise and adapt than a large company, which means you have more opportunity to grow faster. Like, I'll give you an example. I went into this company. It was a $2 billion division of an $8 billion company, and they had a big direct-to-consumer call center up in Minneapolis. And I get in there, and the first thing I go in, I'm like, okay, who's in charge? Well, this person. Well, tell me your background. We have zero background in how to run this direct-to-consumer division. So the first thing I have to do is I go back to the home office in Milwaukee, and I said, look, we need to bring in somebody who is a killer, a hunter-killer, right? If you want to sell, you need a hunter-killer in here running this organization.
Why did this guy end up in that position?
Politics.
Yeah, there you go.
And they finally agreed to let me hire a new person. And then they fed me people that they wanted me to hire. And every person they fed me, I kept going, you're giving me like an analyst and an actuary and a young business degree person. These are not the people that are going to run a sales division that's going to be profitable for you. But they don't get it, right? Well,
is that what it was? They were picking the wrong people, or was it just politics?
It happens a lot in corporate America, I have found. It's not about who's qualified. It's about who can get the job and who's friends with who, and it's political. So I ended up finding the right person, and we turned a division. It was a 75 million top line division, losing $1 million a month when I got there.
Wow.
14 months later, we were 150 million top line, and we were the most profitable division in this company.
Right. Now,
but it was
because you put the right people in the right seats on the bus.
I put the right leadership in, and then I redid their entire training systems. I taught all their sales force how to sell better. Yeah. I mean, we repositioned everything from product to sales to scripts to management to tracking to performance tracking to incentives. They were doing terrible incentive award programs. They weren't based on profitability. They were based on crazy stuff, which screws up people's incentives, right? It's a whole long discussion. Don't want to get into, but
you got to motivate people, and if you motivate them with the wrong things, they're not going to care.
Or you motivate them with the wrong thing, as in sales is number one, as not profitability, right? I can sell product and not be profitable.
Yeah.
And if my goal is to sell the product to get the prize, then I'm going to sell the product at any cost.
Don't care, right? Exactly.
It doesn't make any difference to me as a salesperson, and the company is the one. We had our top salesman in that company was losing money.
Yeah, right. It wasn't the salesman's fault.
No, he did what he was told to do.
Right.
He sold. The problem was all of his sales were falling off on the back end, so his retention rate was terrible, and the profitability was gone. So he's winning all these awards and making all the money. Company's losing money.
I remember when I was in Columbus, Ohio for several years, nationwide, doing their tax planning, whatever. And I remember there was the annuity division had, I guess, I don't know, the executives felt that the salespeople should make more than the executives in the company, which is another stupid thing. So they would cap their income at a certain level, right? Well, that was good for most people, but there was one guy who was the top salesman in the country. He would stop working like middle of September, October, and they would go, "Why is he not working?" I go, "Because you're not paying him."
Why would he?
Why is he going to sell? And he would wait. January would start. It would all, start again. But, short-sighted management, like who cares?
I did another one out in Portland, Oregon. and they were struggling. The company was not profitable. And they brought me in for a week to do an analysis, which is typical for me. And after a week, I went and sat in the CEO's office, and I interviewed all the executives, the second level management, and then spotty people throughout the organization. I came back and I said,
It's gotta be a busy week.
yeah, I said, he said, well, what do you think the problem is? I said, easy, you.
There you go.
He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm telling you, at every level of the organization, every single person here thinks they report directly to you.
Yeah, no, that's a huge problem.
Your chain of hierarchy is there is none. It's zero. And you're a grenade thrower.
Right. Oh yeah.
You lead by intimidation, which means you have everybody scared to death running around here trying to follow your every move.
Really bad way to run a company. So basically his org chart was completely flat.
Yes.
Scared the crap out of everybody. And
Well,
that would motivate them, right?
Hold on. It wasn't just flat. He would have his assistant. He had 3 assistants. He would have one of his assistants running around giving all the instructions. So literally everybody thought they reported to his assistant.
Got it.
And then him. So
yeah. So he's in the ivory tower yelling at these things. She's running around. And
yeah. It was crazy.
You know,
So they brought me in as an interim president of this company. And the first thing I said is, if you want me to do this and fix this organization, you're not allowed to make any more decisions moving forward. He's like, what do you mean? I said, no, I make all decisions. Your only decision is to fire me or not fire me. But I make all decisions. He's like, well,
buy into it?
He said, well, can I stay in the office? I said, yeah, you can stay back here in the corner,
Exactly.
but don't come out, And the first meeting I had with the executive team, his assistant walked in and she sat down. I said,
You can't be here.
I don't remember inviting you. She goes, well, I go to all the meetings. I said, not anymore.
Right.
So, and we flipped that around and that company became wildly profitable. It's owned by Allstate today. It was bought out by National General and then Allstate. So it did really well.
He has a lot of thanks to you.
I like to think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
He probably won't.
Maybe we could talk a little bit about strategic planning when it comes to what do you want to achieve, right? Do you want this to be a lifestyle business, which is nothing wrong with that?
That was the question.
Yeah, we were into that before, I think, the break.
Yeah. So one of the first questions I ask people is why you're doing this, right? If I'm going to consult with you, is why are you doing this? Number one, I want to know why you're doing it, because if you're going to face the headwinds that are going to come your way, you need to have a strong why. But number two is we need to understand what your end goal is. My end goal is always to sell. When I started the restaurants, I knew I would sell, and we're 2 years out from a sale. Right. So is this a lifestyle business, or what I call self-employed? Yeah. Or are you building a business with intrinsic value that you can sell at some point? And if you're going to do that, that requires a whole different set of things that you have to do with replacing yourself in the organization, et cetera. And neither one of those is wrong, because when I sell my restaurant company, I'm going to go back to being self-employed and just run my mastermind.
That's your choice. Yeah.
Because I'm tired of hundreds and hundreds of employees. Right. I've done that long enough. I'm done with it. But
I don't want another employee in my life.
So what is it that you want in your business? Where do you want it to go? Understand the risks and the rewards of either one of those, right? If you're self-employed, if you're a solopreneur and you get sick, you're out of business.
Yeah.
Right? Where if you own a business and you replace yourself and you build intrinsic value, I could sell my company and nobody would even know, right? But I also have to deal with hundreds of employees and getting sued all the time. I have 2 lawsuits going on right now from employees. So which one of those do you want, right? And when you make that decision, then we can determine how we're going to build your business moving forward, right? If you tell me I want to build something I can sell someday, great. Then we need to start building systems and processes, right? People, processes, and technology so that you can get out of here and not do this day to day.
Right.
And that's going to require you to make a little less money along the way. We call this little sacrifice, right? So you sacrifice some money to bring more and more people in to replace you at each level of the organization. But eventually you'll get to the point where you've created a lifestyle which also has value.
Yeah.
Right? Like I can run my restaurants from the ski slopes. I was out there for a month. I can run it from the beach. I just got back from the beach for 2 weeks because everything is on my cell phone. I can run my whole company on a cell phone.
Yeah.
And we can build those kind of businesses if that's what you want, but you have to commit to it and tell me up front. So yeah, it depends on what the person wants, and everybody wants something different. And sometimes they progress. I just want to be a solo entrepreneur. Okay.
That's not static. No, absolutely not.
No, success is a progression.
And they're so excited about whatever the idea they have. First, they skip all kinds of steps when it comes to planning and out ahead of time, right? All the strategic planning you should do. And then they never really ask themselves where they want to end up in 5 or 10 years. They're just worried about where they're going to end up next week.
Right.
5 or 10 years go down the road, and you're really just an employee of a business that you also happen to own.
Right.
It's hard to make that transition. It probably takes a good 3 to 5 years, depending on how what road you went down and how far down the road you were, maybe even more.
Here's a big one for you, Mitch. I will tell you that a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with allowing their people to fail without stepping in and taking over the process. So in other words, if I'm going to bring somebody in to do what I do, I need to understand up front that they're never going to be as good as me.
Right.
Even if it's only in my mind, right? If they're 70 to 80% as good as me, then I've got a huge winner. Right. So you need to understand that up front. Don't get upset when they can't do what you do. It was never going to be 100%. It's 70 to 80. Right. And to get them to that 80, by the way, they need to fail. And they're going to fail. And you need to allow them to fail and learn so that they will be a better employee for you as time goes on. Too many people pull the trigger, firing people.
Get out of the way. You can't do
that. I'll just do it. Right. I do it faster. Let me just do it. I'm better at it. I'm faster at it.
Harm to themselves, the business, the employee, than not.
Yeah. And that is a huge, huge problem for people who want to build value in an organization.
Right. Well, a lot of it also has to do empowering your people, right? So if your people feel that even if they do fail a little bit, and if they do make mistakes, you're still behind them.
Yes.
They will be more willing to try things. I don't know if it was me or it was a company I was working for, with somebody working for us, and I know what it was. I was working for a company, and one of the senior executives had a secretary, administrative assistant. He wasn't like, he would rely on her completely. She could run the whole office.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, she wasn't willing to take ownership in anything that she was doing. So you would call. It was it was an insurance agency. I was part of so you would call. You're an agent, and you would call. You needed to talk to John. Do me a favor. Give John this message. I need this, and then you give this whole message. John gets back to the office. The secretary says, John called. What did he call about? I
don't know.
He called you back, and you're like, what are you talking about? I left this whole message. Finally, we had to let her go. And then once we got somebody in there who did take control of things and was willing to take ownership, he would get back. Wouldn't have any messages. He goes, well, nobody's calling me anymore. Well, Brian called earlier, but I was able to take care of it.
Took care of it.
We figured, changed his life.
Better give that person a raise too, because when they leave, you're going to be in trouble.
That runs the company. But I think that, first of all, people get too reliant on one or two people to run their company, and they do not. They always feel, it's just easier for me to do it. But in the long run, it's not. It's worse for your company.
It hurts your long-term value.
Big time.
Nobody's going to buy your company if you are the sole source of information or technical expertise.
Right.
No one's going to buy it. It's not worth anything, because when you go, you're gone. It's gone.
Indentured servitude, right?
Nobody's going to buy your business if all the customers know you, like you, and want to talk to you.
Right.
Because when you go, they're leaving.
Right. Look, it's a huge problem in my business. In a professional services business, the clients are used to working with the professionals. So you try and bring, associates in or younger people to start working with those people so they become comfortable, because you can't, you can only offload. I have an ethical obligation to do certain things, so I can only offload so much. And it's difficult. It's difficult to create succession in a small professional practice. It really is.
Yep.
It's done, but it's difficult, and a lot of people struggle. But yeah, that's all really good advice. So, okay. So I know we've been on for about 50 to 55 minutes, something like that. If people want to learn more about you, we talked about the book Dropout Multi-Millionaire.
Yep. The Dropout Multi-Millionaire.
Right. That's available, I assume, on Amazon. We'll put links in the show notes.
Yep.
How can people find you? LinkedIn? Is there a way to interact with you?
Yeah. So the easiest way is to go to my website, which is www.brianwillmedia.com. brianwillmedia.com. All three of my books are on there. My podcast episodes are on there. My blogs are on there. My contact information, the mastermind, everything's on there. You can look me up on any social media platform at the Dropout MM, but my website pretty much has everything, so that makes it easy.
Okay, good. So people can connect with you, learn from you, read your book. If anybody wants to get in touch with Brian, and for some reason you didn't listen to what he said and you can't find him, contact us, and we'll put you guys in touch. Brian, I can't thank you for taking the time to come on here. I know it was a little snafu getting online, so I apologize for that. I am going to run the credits, and then you stay on, and we'll wrap up some things.
Mitch, I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Accidental Entrepreneur. Opening and closing music written and performed by Howie Moskovich and made to order music. For information about Howie and his music services, please follow the link in our show notes. If you like the podcast, please tell others about us. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, on Amazon Music, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and most of the other podcast directories. If you like what you hear, please leave us a 5-star review and feel free to share our episodes on social media. If you have any questions or comments, ideas for the show, or you'd even like to appear as a guest, reach out to us by email at info@beinhackerlaw.com.
The Accidental Entrepreneur is hosted by Mitch Beinhacker and produced by Beinhacker Law. If you'd like to learn more about our business and legal services, you can find us on social media or visit our website at beinhackerlaw.com. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe to our feed to be notified of all future episodes.